Thank you, Jeff, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your patience and for joining us today. As Jeff mentioned, I'm Bill Kaler. I'm the CEO of Team NEO, who is Jobs Ohio's network partner in Northeast Ohio, and I am really excited about this program today. We're going to hear about ways that the Air Force and NASA can work together to encourage innovation. And do it while leveraging technology being developed within NASA for military and commercial benefit. Core to our strategy here at Team NEO is advancing Northeast Ohio's economic vibrancy by, in part, accelerating the pace of technology adoption. And for us, that means leveraging additive manufacturing to make things stronger, lighter, able to withstand greater stress. Implementing smart manufacturing capabilities to improve production efficiency and effectiveness while strengthening supply chains. It might mean harnessing energy for new and more sustainable sources for stronger and longer performance. In addition to NASA, we are blessed with higher ed institutions that can play an increasingly impactful role in the aerospace innovation economy. That could mean Cleveland State helping build STEM talent, Case Western's robotics, or other types of technology expertise. Kent State's aeronautical capabilities, maybe University of Akron's polymer expertise, and many others. We're also fortunate to have focused economic development institutions who are facilitating connections and technology deployment throughout the community and other parts of the state in support of increasingly robust supply chains. Organizations like America Makes, the Ohio Aerospace Institute, or BRIGHT. Very recently, Jobs Ohio invested in a new innovation hub alongside Nottingham Spurk and EY to help encourage commercialization of new technology into new products and manufacturing capabilities that help Northeast Ohio and the state expand our capabilities and our reputation as a manufacturing center throughout the world. So here in Northeast Ohio, we're really proud of the assets we have. We're encouraged by the opportunity in front of us to leverage NASA, the Air Force, and other aerospace-related and manufacturing innovation assets. And we look to the success of our peers in Northeast Ohio as an example of what is possible with strategic focus, collaboration, and total commitment to getting it right. So many thanks to the Air Force Materials Command for bringing us together today, to Jobs Ohio for the leadership you're providing and the partnership you're providing to us here in Northeast Ohio. Let me now turn it back to my friend and partner, Jeff Hoagland, from the Dayton Development Coalition, who will share additional perspectives on the rest of the program. Enjoy your afternoon.
Great, and thank you, Bill. Bill and I have been fortunate to work with each other for many years now as part of the Jobs Ohio network. You'll hear more about that later, but Bill's been a great partner and friend over the years. And Bill, we're glad to do even more with you up in Cleveland, especially with that being my hometown. So keep it strong, Bill. I think many of you know my role as president and CEO of the Dayton Development Coalition. We do a lot of work to support Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Like Team NEO in Cleveland, the Dayton Development Coalition is a private nonprofit organization. We're here to help businesses, connect businesses, and help them grow. We do it in a 14-county region, about 1.8 million people. But today I am wearing a different hat. I also represent Wright-Patterson Air Force Base from the Air Force Material Command CLP and from the Air Force CLP. One of the strengths of this program is helping our communities better understand the work of our military installations. The work that we do and that they do together is so important. That's why we're here today, to learn a little bit more about what AFMC and NASA does. And these are two amazing organizations that we have in our state that are assets that I think are hidden secrets that we're trying to get the information out a little bit more. Leading the conversation today is a dear friend and a mentor of mine and so many. And it's my honor to introduce our moderator today, General Lester Lyles. He's a longtime friend to the Dayton region and our state. I think many of you remember General Lyles as the commander of the Air Force Material Command at Wright-Pat, his last assignment in a distinguished Air Force career. He was appointed last year to the Jobs Ohio Board of Directors to formally support Ohio's economic development efforts. His vast experience in space domain has shaped the country's strategy for space exploration, human space flight, and space warfare during his career, and makes him the perfect guy to help guide our conversation today. He's a retired general and former Vice Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. General Lyles today serves on the board of directors for KBR Corp. He's a former director of General Dynamics Corp, Battelle Labs, and USAA. He also chaired or served on various councils related to the U.S. space program. General Lyles is chair of the NASA Advisory Council and previously served as the vice chairman of the Defense Science Board. He was elected to the National Academy of Engineers in 2011. General Lyles also served as a member of President Obama's Intelligence Advisory Board from 2009 to 2013, and the State Department's International Security Advisory Board from 2013 to 2017. His awards include Defense Distinguished Service Medal, Distinguished Service Defense Superior Service Medal, and Legion of Merit with Oak Leaf Cluster. He received a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Howard University. He received a master's degree in mechanical and nuclear engineering, as well as an honorary doctorate of law from New Mexico State and Urbana University. As you can tell, and General Lyles usually says this, he also failed retirement. We don't think so. We've been very blessed that he has given his time and his intellect to help not just the Dayton region, the state of Ohio, and our country, as you heard from the comments that I read before. So it's my true honor to introduce to everyone today General Lester Lyles. The floor is yours, sir.
Jeff, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? We make sure you got a couple of thumbs up. That's good. Good. Well, this is really a golden opportunity. I can't believe how great an opportunity this is for anybody who's listening and participating in this particular event. I understand it's been you've been trying to pull this together for a little bit of time, but the pandemic over the last year sort of thwarted it. So my kudos to Bill, Team NEO, to the Dayton Development Coalition, JP and Jobs Ohio for working with Arnie Bunch and Air Force Material Command and Dr. Perez Davis and NASA Glenn to pull this off. This is really, I think it's probably going to be not the last time we do something like this because of the two great organizations that are involved and the writ large aspect of Ohio and what all this really means. So I'm honored to have the opportunity to participate as a moderator for this particular event. As Jeff mentioned, obviously I have my strong Air Force connection, but I've had really, since I retired primarily, at the end of 2003, a very, very strong NASA collection and background. When 2004, when President George W. Bush established his first space commission to develop the strategy for human space exploration, I was named to the commission that did that. Pete Aldridge, former Secretary of the Air Force, chaired that event, and it included people like Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, my friend Neil Tyson, Carly Fiorina, who at the time was the CEO of Hewlett Packard, and just a robust group of us who sort of essentially laid out the strategy for what NASA is doing today in human and space exploration. And since that time, literally since 2004, I've had the honor of serving either on directly or indirectly the NASA Advisory Council, the official advisory group to the NASA administrator. And recently, starting under Charlie Bolden, and then Jim Bridenstine, who just left, and soon to be Senator Bill Nelson, as administrator of NASA, I've had a chance to work with those individuals and to chair the advisory council. As a matter of fact, Senator Nelson serves on the NASA Advisory Council under my charge. And so now I'll get a chance to work for him as soon as he gets confirmed in the job. And then needless to say, the honor of Governor DeWine appointing me to the board of Jobs Ohio, it really has given me a broad perspective for the Air Force Material Command, NASA, and now Ohio at large in terms of all the things and capabilities there. So this forum is great in having three exemplary, just noted leaders, not just for the state of Ohio and their specific aspects of it, but because of what they do that's national. In the case of certainly General Bunch, for national security for literally the whole country. So I'm honored to introduce our three participants in the panel discussion. And I'm going to start with Dr. Marla Perez Davis. She is a director of the NASA Glenn Research Center. As I mentioned earlier, I've had a lot of time in the past of spending visits up there to NASA Glenn. And for those of you who perhaps are not in the Northeast Ohio area who have not had a chance to visit, it is just a wonderful wonderful place with all the great capabilities, including Plum Brook and all the other things that I'm sure she's going to talk about. Dr. Perez Davis is a director of the Glenn Research Center. She is responsible for planning, organizing, and directing all of their activities required in accomplishing their missions assigned to the center, which includes both space and aeronautics and many other aspects of technology. The Glenn staff consists of more than 3,200 civil servants and scientists and support contractors and employees, and has an annual budget of more than $900 million. Probably today's vernacular, and with the budgets coming up in the Biden administration, probably well over $1 billion. Prior to becoming the director, Dr. Perez Davis served as the Glenn's deputy director, and her previous assignments really capture all of the leadership roles at NASA Glenn. She's responsible for leading the planning, coordinating, managing all phases of research and engineering in every aspect of its NASA missions. She is a graduate of the University of Puerto Rico, but her Ohio roots are very strong. She got her master's degree in University of Toledo and her PhD at Case Western Reserve University. So Dr. Perez Davis, welcome. We look forward to your comments and shortly after we introduce everybody. And certainly the commander of Air Force Materiel Command needs no introduction to certainly anybody around the Dayton area, but really all of Ohio, and for us Air Force people, the entire United States Air Force. General Arnie Bunch is the commander of Air Force Materiel Command, which has a broad mission of installation and mission support, discovery and development, science and technology, test and evaluation, life cycle management, services and sustainment of virtually every major Air Force weapon system, and probably, to be honest with you, some of the weapon systems that are engaged by the other services as well. The command employs approximately 89,000 people. That's gone up. When I was the commander, it was only 80,000 people, and manages $60 billion of budget authority. I only manage $45 billion. So, Arnie, you've grown and doing great things for the country. General Bunch was commissioned in 1984 as a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy. He completed undergraduate pilot training in 1985, and he's had operational assignments as an aircraft commander, instructor, and evaluator for the B-52 Stratofortress. And following graduate from Air Force Test Pilot School, he conducted developmental testing in the B-2 Spirit and the B-52, served as an instructor in each of those great platforms, and he's commanded in the Air Force at every level: squadron, group, wing, center, and now obviously as a major command. Prior to his current assignment, General Bunch was a military deputy, the deputy to the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics. He's no stranger to Ohio. This is, I think, his fourth assignment at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, or associated with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base since returning in 2019. Arnie, General Bunch, welcome, and look forward to your remarks as well. And last, but certainly not least, JP Norseef. JP is a friend literally to everybody. And I mean that both professionally, but also personally. He and his family are personal friends of my family and me, and certainly for everybody in the state of Ohio and all the things he does as the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of Jobs Ohio. He is not only your friend, he's probably the leading person responsible for economic development, for getting jobs in businesses, and establishing and supporting businesses throughout the state of Ohio. It is a statewide economic development organization, Jobs Ohio. And I will tell you, because I've seen it in person, not just being on the board, there's no entity like it anywhere in the country. No other organization has the clout, the resources, or the leadership that Jobs Ohio does. And that's a great deal to do with JP, but also with the governor of Ohio and his great support. JP is also a veteran, 30 career in the United States Air Force. As a matter of fact, part of his time was as a state technology development officer,
really unexpected,
leading programs at Space and Missile Systems Center. It just so happens at the time he did that, I was a 3-star commander of SMC. Got a chance to see him work as a young officer.
see these numbers or hear about them.
Okay, so somebody muted. Thanks. Good. Thank you. And his last assignment before he went into the reserves was as an aide de camp to one of the previous commanders of Air Force Material Command, General Butch Vasilio. So he's really done it all, if you will. He's also been the leader of the Dayton Development Coalition, in addition to all the things he's done in helping businesses grow, startup businesses grow and excel in the state of Ohio. Anybody who spent any time with JP knows that he is passionate about supporting military families and veterans. And probably one of the things that I hope somebody really notes for JP is that he co-founded Hometown Heroes and the Big Hoopla, supporting the March Madness. Unfortunately, was not able to do that this year because of the pandemic, but those entities are still alive and still going. And I can't wait till next year when we can get it restarted again. JP earned his bachelor's degree from the University of Dayton and his commission to the Air Force to the ROTC program at Wright State University. And he earns his master's degree from the University of Southern California. He, if you're looking at your video, he and his lovely wife, Carmen, live there in Dayton, of course, and he has 4 very, very dynamic and successful already young boys. So JP, welcome, thank you. Looking forward to your insights as well. And before I turn it over to Arnie to get started with our remarks, Arnie can't stay after the initial part of remarks. So he actually has the commander of the Lifecycle Management Center, Lieutenant General Sean Morris, who's going to answer the questions for him. And then after he has answered all the tough questions, then Arnie's going to come back. So Arnie, welcome. Looking forward to your comments and remarks. I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And welcome to all. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I want to thank the Dayton Development Coalition, Team NEO and Jobs Ohio for this opportunity for us to talk a little bit about something. We're very proud of the work we do here in Air Force Materiel Command. Also, General Lyles, I want to say thank you to you. Without your mentorship, you picked me to take a job for you. I learned from you then, and you've mentored and served as a role model ever since. So I appreciate all of that. And for everybody that's out there, all of you realize it's always very scary when you're talking and one of your former leaders and someone who held the job and was noted for it, you're talking about the job they used to have. So you can imagine I'm probably a little more nervous than I probably would normally be. So General Lyles, thank you again for the intro. It is an honor to be here today to represent the 88,000 plus airmen in Air Force Materiel Command and be a very proud partner with the state of Ohio. We in Air Force Materiel Command with our airmen, we enjoy tremendous community support from across the entire state, and the Air Force members, Guard members enjoy great support from across the state. We really appreciate the efforts of Governor DeWine, Joe Zeese, General Lyles, JP, all the others who have been involved to strengthen the relationship between the military and federal sectors and the state. And it's also great to be here with NASA Glenn. We've got an incredible partnership with them. I'm really proud of the great work we're doing with them. I'm going to start off today providing a little bit of a context on what we do and why it is so important. And it may be a little different than how we normally lead into this, but I think it's important to give a framework of where we're going as an Air Force and what we in AFMC are focused on. If you go back and look, we, the Air Force, went to the Gulf in 1990, and we've actually never come back. We've continued to have troops there employing air power. And the thing we've done is if we've employed that air power, we've done it in ways that no one ever envisioned. Many of us watched bombs going down bench shafts, and we've watched how we use B-52s for close air support. We've got tactical air controllers on horseback. We've done all kinds of things that no one would have ever envisioned that we would have been able to do, and we've done it consistently. And we've done it in a way never envisioned, and we've set a great example for what our Air Force can do, your Air Force can do. As we've done that, the world has watched us, and they have adopted and they've adapted. They've adopted many of the technologies that we've utilized. They've watched how we've used space. They've watched how we've designed weapons. They've watched how we've communicated. They've watched how we partnered. And they've looked at those technologies and they've adopted many of those. They've adopted them because they've either invested in them or they bought some of our things, or they have exfiltrated some of those technologies out and then they've used them in their own way of doing business. They've also adopted their techniques on how they use air power, and they're now coming at us from a different way than they ever have before. They've also adapted. They've adapted many of their techniques so that it makes it more challenging for us to employ air power in the way that we normally have. I'll focus here on why I say today we're in a great power competition again, particularly when it comes to respect with China and Russia. And one of the things that's called out in our national defense strategy is that even the homeland is no longer a sanctuary. China and Russia have made huge investments. They're investing a lot in technology. They've invested in hypersonics. They're investing in artificial intelligence. They're investing in machine learning. They're investing in counter space. They know and they've watched how dependent we are on space, and they're invested to try to limit our ability to capitalize on that great strength that we have. China and Russia are also taking actions that are causing us to need to react and need to change our ways of doing business. They're attacking our networks. Our networks are under attack 24/7, and we constantly have to be on defense. They are challenging us in space, not just in what we do military, but also what we do in commercial. And we know as a nation how dependent we are on space. That's why I'm very happy that we're talking about a space force and we're talking about space as a warfighting domain. I think that's a great step forward. They've changed the way they've integrated their air defenses, and they are changing the way they look to fight in the electromagnetic spectrum and electromagnetic warfare. And it's an area that we've got to adapt. China has also expanded out and they've made islands fortresses. If you look at those and publicly released things, you'll see runways and fuel pits and other things in ways that we didn't have before. And China is also heavily investing in across the globe in resources and get footholds into countries to try to limit our access. Those are all things that are transpiring and are shaping the way that we are doing business. If you go back to the National Defense Strategy that was published in 2018, and if you haven't read the unclassified version, I'd highly ask you to go do it. It's a great read and it gives you an idea where we're going as a Department of Defense. It focuses on 4 major areas. It focuses on readiness and modernization. It focuses on allies and partners, and it focuses on reform for efficiency. Those are the 3 that are specifically called out. Secretary Esper called out also taking care of service members and their families. He added that one in under his leadership. If you look at what we do as Air Force Materiel Command, readiness and modernization, as Joe Lyles talked about, we're doing the procurement and modernization of everything from uniforms to intercontinental ballistic missiles, from software to support equipment and fire trucks, to weapons to airplanes. We're buying everything across that spectrum, and we're modernizing all that, and we're sustaining all that so that we can put it out in the field, and we're testing it. All of those are areas that we're heavily focused on. Allies and partners. Foreign military sales is predominantly led out of the Air Force Security Assistance and Cooperation Directorate under Lieutenant General Morris's leadership. And we're doing higher foreign military sales in the attempts to sell American products overseas through that than we've ever seen before. And the team's doing a great job. If you look at reform for efficiency, we've got more of the business processes than anybody else in the Air Force. And you can't talk about reforming our processes without looking at what we do, whether it's in research, test, engineering, procurement, sustainment, all of those activities fall through here. And care for service members and their families. Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center is all about that and making sure that we can do that on behalf of the entire United States Air Force and make sure that we've got areas so that our airmen and families feel comfortable and safe. Those are all areas that we're focused on as a command, and they play into the role that we execute every day. It's why I talk about AFMC being the most important major command in the Air Force. That's not an egotistical thing. That's just because everything we do for everybody else. The other one that we're really focused on, it's also why I talk about that we do our wartime mission every day. And that's the mantra we use with our airmen and how we need to be doing business at speed. The other thing that we're focused on right now, General Brown, our Chief of Staff, General Brown, has come in and he's got us on accelerate, change, or lose. We're trying to make sure that we're supporting that by eliminating bureaucracy, working on our airmen, making sure we know we're in a competition and shaping ourselves and going forward. Our push is speed with discipline. I can't just have all speed and not have the discipline so that we're executing properly the American taxpayer dollars, but I can't have all discipline so that we don't have anything getting out into the field. Our goal is to put technology into the field at the speed of relevance. So we as a command, we're over 88,000. We talked about that. We run over 34% of the Air Force's budget through the command. And we're really focused on making sure we're doing that in an efficient and effective manner and gathering the benefits. Real quick, key areas that we're focused on that we'll take more questions on in the Q&A. My priorities right now are diversity and inclusion. The digital campaign that we kicked off over a year ago to try to link data and being digital and open everywhere from research and science and technology all the way through the life cycle of a system until we put it into the boneyard as we sustain it. That's key area. We're very focused on software and innovation and making sure we can take those good ideas and get them to scale across our Air Force. We've got a big focus on our science and technology 2030 efforts. That is to make sure we are reforming the way we do our S&T so that we know we're in a competition. And we're looking for those transformational capabilities, get them out into the field to give our airmen, our most valued treasure, a decided advantage when they go into combat. The other one that fits into that you may talk about later is AFWorks. AFWorks is now part of the Air Force Research Laboratory and falls under AFMC. And I think that's a great partnership to be able to go to scale and bring some of those commercial technologies in. And last but not least is the meeting that I'm leaving to go support. And that is, we are going to be the servicing MAGCOM for the United States Space Force. And we're going to be taking care of those airmen and making sure they're taken care of. All those are really important. We got to have community support, and Ohio's doing a great job, and we appreciate that. And we got to have industry support. We don't do any of this by ourselves, and we need industry partnerships. And we look forward to working with industry as we go forward. Thanks again for the opportunity. And I'll be back as soon as I get out of the other meeting with Joe Brown. Thanks, Joe Lyles.
Arnie, thank you very much. Fantastic. Great. Okay. Just, I was kidding, Arnie, about the size of the organization, the size of the budget. But as you listen to those things that he's taking on, and the Air Force Materiel Command is taking on, they're significantly larger and bigger than some of the things that I had to do when I was a commander. So we look forward to General Morris answering some of the questions a little bit later. Let me turn it over now for remarks to Dr. Perez Davis, the leader of Glenn Research Center. Dr. Perez Davis, looking forward to your remarks and comments. Thank you.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank you, Team NEO, Jobs Ohio, Dayton Development Coalition, and General Lyles for the introduction. Greatly appreciated. It is an honor to be part of the panel today with General Bunch and JP. So thank you so much for the opportunity. So let me tell you a little bit about NASA, Glenn. Couple of things. The first one is that we have been a pillar of the Cleveland landscape and Ohio aerospace community for nearly 80 years. Yes, this year we turned 80, so we have a celebration of 80 years at NASA for NASA Glenn. As it was mentioned before, we have around 3,300 employees, a very diverse workforce, and we represent one of the NASA's 10 field centers that is conducting research and technology development that it make possible for our nation to continue exploring, discovering, and innovating to shape the world of tomorrow, both on Earth and in space. We rely on 6 core competencies. The first one is propulsion, and is both air-breathing propulsion and in-space propulsion. In-space propulsion also include the cryogenic part. Power, and part of the power, we have energy storage and conversion. Materials and instruction for extreme environments, that's one of our niche. Communications technologies, as well as physical sciences and biomedical technology. We have 2 main campuses. The majority of our staff and facilities are located at the Lewis Field, which is adjacent to the Cleveland Airport. And we have our recently renamed Neil Armstrong Test Facility, Sandusky, which many of you remember by Plumbrook Station. So I'm still getting used to the change in name. It's going to take a while. Both campuses houses world-class testing facilities in support of electric-powered flight and all flight regimes. I mean, subsonic, supersonic, and hypersonic research. And in space-related, the facilities at Lewis Fields and also at Armstrong Test Facility are helping to send astronauts back to the moon and beyond. These capabilities enable us to conduct unique science and technology investigations, provide the ability to conduct risk reduction on proposed exploration and planetary system, and allow breakthroughs in multiple disciplines of flight. NASA Glenn has been a catalyst for the aerospace community in Ohio. And it is with pride that I can say that our most recent economic impact study revealed that the center activities created and supported nearly 7,000 jobs, increased labor income by $505 million, and generated $118 million in local, state, and federal taxes. These efforts are critical to the state and the nation's space economy, fueling new industries and technologies, supporting job growth, and furthering the demand for a highly skilled workforce. Looking forward to the future, Glenn Power and Propulsion Legacy has positioning us to lead the advancement of innovative systems for a forthcoming aviation renaissance, a NASA Artemis program, and the eventual human exploration of Mars. NASA's visions of a future flight looks very different from today's world. And we believe we are at the right place at the right time, and we foresee a future of commercial aviation unlike anything before that will challenge us to stay connected globally and the opportunity to establish a new S-curve. Our aviation revolution centers of 4 main projects or areas where we are working with commercial partners and academia to make this future a reality. The first one is sustainable flight, and we are tackling the challenges of electric propulsion for small to large aircraft. We are also working on the development of all electric propulsion systems and components, from batteries to megawatt scale systems. And we are partnering with industry on future large scale hybrid electric concept to meet NASA's requirements of carbon, fuel burn, emissions, and noise. The advanced air mobility is the second area, and we are running emerging markets to tackle the challenges of creating an air transportation system for urban and underserved areas that is all electric, autonomous, efficient, and safe for moving passengers and packages. The third area is the quiet supersonic flight, and we are building an experimental airplane called the X-59. It flies supersonic, but make a quiet thump instead of a loud air sonic boom. We will fly it to provide data to enable regulation changes to allow overland commercial supersonic flight. And last, the air traffic. We are working with the FAA to develop tools that will reduce delay, fuel use, and noise for aircraft moving into and out of airports across the country. Beyond our work in aeronautics, Glenn is playing a significant role in the Artemis program, which will return boots to the moon, followed by human exploration of Mars in a way that is achievable and sustainable. And the key word here is sustainable, and builds on years of successful commercial and international partnerships. We need the moon to understand how to live on another planet. It holds important information about the formation of our planet and the history of our solar system. It has plentiful resources for living and working space, and is a huge strategic and economic opportunity for all us. With Artemis, we will use a diverse, highly trained astronaut corps from which we will select the first woman and first person of color to step foot on the moon in the near future. And we will use the moon as a proven ground for the exploration of technologies and processes needed to reach further into our solar system. Our long-term goal has always been to send humans to Mars, and we need the moon to help us get there. To close, all our research and development taking place at NASA Glenn, coupled with record level of private investment in aeronautical space, will help put Ohio and the United States in a position to ensure our nation's world preeminence in space. But we cannot do it alone. We need you. We are engaging the best and brightest across academia, government, and private industry, along with partners around the world, to reach new milestones in human achievement, and we want to engage with the local community and Ohio businesses as much as possible. Thank you for allowing me to tell you a little bit about NASA Glenn, and I look forward to today's discussions and the opportunities that may come from it. Thank you.
Dr. Perez-Davis, thank you very much. What a very exciting mission and organization that you have there at NASA Glenn. I couldn't help for smiling as I mentioned, as chairing the NASA Advisory Council. I wish people could really get a chance to see and understand the types of technologies and things that are going on, both in the Artemis program, the things you're doing in aeronautics, electric flight, et cetera. Thank you for your leadership of just a fantastic national asset, if you will, at NASA Glenn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
JP, let me turn the floor over to you from Jobs Ohio perspective. And again, I have the honor of working for you and knowing all the things that are going on at Jobs Ohio. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate the opportunity to be on this panel. So I definitely want to thank General Bunch. General Lyles, thank you for moderating. Jeff Hoagland, the DDC, and Bill Kaler, that our partner at Team NEO. Thank you very much. The thought that we would be having multiple statewide forums to talk about these issues, the thought that we would be doing that 10 years ago, I don't think many of us that were involved in advocating for the military and for federal installations would have believed that the amount of engagement that would be occurring. So I'm just excited that this conversation is happening, and I'm very, very happy to be a team member that's part of the process. I'd like to paint a little bit of context for where Jobs Ohio fits into this context, because of course these installations and the men and women that serve and the industry partners that support them and the academic partners that have been conducting research have been doing this great work for decades. And there have been community partners around the state of Ohio that have been advocating for them also for decades and been doing outstanding work. Jobs Ohio and the state of Ohio are aligned like they never have been before to help become more additive to the process that's already occurring. So for those of you who don't know about Jobs Ohio or what makes it different and unique, I'm going to go through, I've got 10 minutes. I'm going to go through it. Jobs Ohio is the state of Ohio's privatized economic development organization. Essentially in 2011, the state of Ohio privatized the Ohio Department of Development. Most statewide economic development organizations are part of the state government apparatus. In Ohio, we're unique. One of the unique things is that we're private. It's a 501c4. There are 9 board members appointed by the governor of Ohio. And we also have one emeritus board member who was one of the founding board members, former Ohio House Speaker Bill Batchelder. So in 2011, privatization occurred. In 2013, the team at Jobs Ohio went to the bond markets and raised $1.4 billion and acquired the rights to Ohio Spiritus Liquor Enterprise. So many of you may not know that Jobs Ohio also, through the Jobs Ohio beverage system, operates the Ohio Spiritus Liquor Enterprise and uses those profits from the Spiritus Liquor Enterprise to fund economic development. Jobs Ohio has 118 professionals located at our Columbus offices. We're now, of course, working virtual like many of you are. We work primarily through 6 regional partners. 2 of them are on this call today, at least 2. Team NEO, and the Dayton Development Coalition. And then we also maintain a presence on behalf of the state of Ohio in 10 international markets around the world. And those markets are the ones that have the most foreign direct investment here in Ohio. So who cares, right? Well, what makes this, what's different, what's unique? Well, Jobs Ohio has significant unique advantages and competitive differentiators for the state of Ohio. There's a Venn diagram here. I like Venn diagrams. I'll quickly go through what the primary differentiators are, but it starts with that team in the center. Jobs Ohio's team, we pull our professionals from the 10 economic development sectors that we focus on, that are 10 resilient sectors that draw power about 22% of the state of Ohio's economy. It starts with that group. Then, of course, I mentioned that we were private. It's a big deal being a private entity when we're dealing with companies that want to expand in Ohio or come from other places in the country or the world to locate in Ohio. They share sensitive, competitive business information, financial information that they don't want shared until they're ready to share it. So since we're private, we're able to keep confidential negotiations with those companies. It provides us with an advantage. We can also adapt and be agile when environmental factors dictate that we do so. Last year was a good example of a significant shock to the environment, and Jobs Ohio, working with our partners, was able to adapt. So private structure is another one of the differentiators. Stable funding. Again, we operate Ohio Spirituous Liquor Enterprise. We use the profits from the Spirituous Liquor Enterprise, which end up being approximately $285 million per year. Those resources go to fund Jobs Ohio's operations. We are the single largest investor for each of our 6 regional network partners, and they help to fund the deals through grants, investments in innovation, talent and workforce. And they also allow us to enter into longer term agreements that sometimes companies want to enter into 5- and 10-year agreements. A lot of times organizations that are attached to the state apparatus are forced to meet 2 to 4 year budget cycles within government. And finally, our coverage model. We are a central organization, but we go to market through those outstanding 6 regional network partners. That allows us to deliver a state level of resources to any deal, but we can deliver them with a local soft touch. And economic development happens at the local and regional level. So it's an outstanding model. Any one of these attributes would make Ohio and Jobs Ohio more competitive than other states. But we've got all of these, and we're taking advantage of it, and momentum is building. So mentioned, we focus on 10 economic sectors. This past, at the end of 2019, we added the military and federal sector in addition to the other 9. Our initiative is focused on developing and growing the economic value, the research value of the military and federal sector. There are 93,000 jobs in Ohio in that sector, and we want Ohio to be recognized as the best state for military and federal missions, military and federal workforce and their families, and for America's veterans. The team is aligned top to bottom, side to side. This is a top priority of the governor and lieutenant governor. The primary evidence for that, in my point of view, is that they hired Joe Zeese, retired colonel, but he has military experience within Air Force Materiel Command. He's also a lawyer, and he spent time at the Dayton Development Coalition. So he's got a unique mix of experience that makes him extremely valuable. But they have made this a priority. Our congressional delegation has a reputation for working in a bipartisan fashion on issues related to military and federal programs, and they're working together, and they're positioned on the right committees. The Ohio legislature, someone told me that Rick Perales is on the call, has organized itself to make legislative priorities to support military families and policy that supports Ohio's competitiveness with military and veterans. And then our team on the ground, day to day, we've got Elaine Bryant, who serves as Jobs Ohio's managing director, and she is also dual-hatted as a vice president of the Dayton Development Coalition that orchestrates our strategy and our team. Jim Free covers NASA and Northeast Ohio. James Dignan, a Guard Reserve component, and he's located in Youngstown. And of course, Colonel Zeese represents as the governor's senior advisor. So there's alignment with the state, there's alignment with the congressional delegation, and then we've got undoubtedly the best set of senior advisors in the country. No other state can match us. General Lyles is one of our advisors, and he's been advising these types of issues since 2003, 2004. And we're very fortunate that he's committed, but also General Buzz Mosley, also retired Air Force, former Chief of Staff, and General Tom Owen, who was the commander of the LCMC and has been also engaged with economic development and military support in Ohio for over 5 years. So I know we talk a lot about NASA Glenn. We talk a lot about Wright-Patterson, and they do have the most significant, when you combine them, footprint for jobs and economic impact, and they probably hold significant opportunity in terms of collaborative research, given the things that General Lyles had mentioned earlier. But there are over 30 major installations in Ohio and over 90 smaller installations in Ohio that we're focused on with this strategy. So again, it's over 93,000 jobs that are comprised in this sector. It's a significant sector, and there's a lot of opportunity. And what we're trying to do with this initiative, again, is awareness is number one. The fact that we're talking about this is a big deal. Awareness, develop initiatives where we can collaborate with the great work already being done in our military and federal communities to grow jobs, federal investment, identify collaborative research opportunities so that we can attract more industry into Ohio. And again, we want to be the most welcoming place for military spouses and military families. As an example, the Dayton Development Coalition has been at this for over 15 years, actually over 20 years. Again, focusing a priority in their economic development plan on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and Springfield Air National Guard Base. And you can see the results of that focus. Jeff Hoagland has done an outstanding job, created a best practice nationally, but you can see since the year 2000, it's been nearly 100% direct job gain as a result, and even a greater increase in economic impact for Southwest Ohio and the Dayton region. We haven't had as good of a track record in growing jobs in Northeast Ohio around NASA Glenn. But again, this is one of our objectives, to take some of the models that worked in Southwest Ohio and scale them statewide, add some resources, and again, create awareness so that we can have this kind of job growth. So again, Ohio can be recognized for what we already know it is, best state for military federal missions, their families, the workforce, and America's veterans. General Lyles mentioned this earlier, Hometown Heroes programs. These are family-based programs that provide access to professional sports, collegiate sports like the NCAA basketball tournament, the arts, concerts for military members, military families, students, and also provides a way we can publicly recognize and thank these people that serve and take care of us. We can thank them publicly. It's been a very successful program and scaled across the country by the NCAA and others, but so far over 73,000 tickets have been donated, that thanks to the generosity of Ohio sponsors, so that these families, military families and military members can have access to these special events. And I can tell you, I was an Air Force brat, and we moved here in 1978, didn't know a single person. And this community in this state is part of our DNA. We value that, we embrace those that serve. And these programs hopefully will scale to every community in Ohio that has a military or federal presence, and develop these programs so that Ohio will be known and have a reputation where military members and veterans want to bring their families. Once they come here, usually they don't want to leave. So with that, I will pause and pass it back to our outstanding moderator, General Lyles.
JP, thank you very much. And just as I said with General Bunch and also Dr. Perez Davis, I wish everybody would have an opportunity, or had an opportunity, to see the breadth and scope of things that you and your team are doing there at Jobs Ohio. I know attempted, though, is not a joke, and facetiously to mention, you talked about the spiritless liquor enterprise that Jobs Ohio runs. Tempted to remind everybody on the net that the more you drink, the more money Jobs Ohio has to be able to support jobs, et cetera. But I'm just kidding when I say that. And I know JP and his team are actually very conscious of that nature, and they even have programs to make sure that that does not become an issue for somebody who might even be thinking along those lines. So JP, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If Dr. Perez Davis, if you can join us again, and General Morris, if you can join us, let's turn to the question and answer session here. Oh, okay, there he is. There's General Morris. And again, as I said earlier, since General Bunch had to step away for the meeting with the chief about the Space Force, we're honored to have the commander of the Life Cycle Management Center, General Sean Mars, joining us. And General Mars, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Let me
sir.
throw the
Pleasure to be
first, thank you. Let me throw the first question on this to each one of you. And it's sort of a generic one. It's what are Ohio's greatest strengths and weaknesses or challenges in the aerospace industry and working with the aerospace industry? And Joe Morris, let me start with you. So we haven't had a chance to hear from you, and then I'll go to Dr. Perez Davis and then JP.
Great. Thanks, sir. I have to admit, this is my first time that I've ever done an event like this where I got to answer questions about somebody else's presentation. So, and I considered trying to do it in a Tennessee drawl, but I realized, I'm not perfectly clear on the difference between y'all and all y'all. And so I've decided not to go that way. So greatest strengths. So like General Bunch, this is my third time here in Ohio. There is no doubt in my mind, Ohio's greatest strength is the community and industry support to the military here. I told this story at an event I was at. Actually, I think it was sponsored by the DDC, if I'm not mistaken. It was a welcome to new commanders. I have never been in a place where we did a welcome to new commanders, where we had both of the state senators there. The governor was represented. All of the representatives who surrounded the communities that had new commanders were there. It was absolutely an incredible level of support. And that is consistent with my experience that I've had in every time that I've been here in Ohio. The level of support that the state provides to our military families, and to our military installations, I think sets Ohio apart. JP mentioned licensure. I think most folks on the line may be aware that the three service secretaries had gotten together a few years back and sent out a letter to all the state governors saying that we were going to the Department of Defense was going to consider, when basing in states, licensure reciprocity for spouses and quality of schools. And Ohio immediately responded to that and has put in place, thanks to the great work. I know Joe Zeese had a big role in this, working directly with the governor, a great reciprocity program for our spouses, which makes a huge difference when families move into the local area. General Bunch is fond of saying, we recruit individuals, but we retain families. And so when we have things like that at a location like this, it not only makes it more attractive for us to put mission there, but it makes it more attractive for us to be able to bring talent in. So clearly, that in my mind is by far the greatest strength. I don't know that I have a weakness, but I'll highlight an area that I think is a continued area for all of us to be focused on, which falls into the schools category, which is the continual emphasis at the state level on STEM. And the development of the kinds of skills that we are going to need at Wright-Patterson to be successful. I'm sure the NASA, they need the same types of deep technical skills at NASA to be successful, and the development of those skills, not only starting early in our school systems, but all the way through tech schools into graduate programs will be a critical area that I think we'll need to continue to focus on as a community. So that's all I had on that. I'll turn it over. Thanks.
Great, thank you, General Morris. Dr. Perez Davis.
So I echo everything that General Morris said. General Morris, nice to meet you. I will add a couple of things, not to repeat, what he said, because again, I echo the STEM and also the support that we get from the state of Ohio. And just to highlight some of the state of Ohio support, NASA conducted an economy study in terms of what was the economic advantages and impact in different states regarding the agency Moon to Mars exploration efforts. Out of that study, Ohio ranked in the top 10 of state benefactors of NASA's efforts, which included 2.3 billion for the state economy and 302 millions, which come directly from that effort. So having said that, when we look at what is going on with the Artemis program, the Space Launch System rocket, and even the new 21st century spaceport at NASA Kennedy, we have in the state of Ohio 124 suppliers that contributed to that. So I will say we have a strong base for our suppliers. One of the things that we have to continue working is obviously all the aspects of the Artemis program and all other areas that we can make a contribution and make sure that we partner with industry, academia, and other federal entities within the state of Ohio. When we look at aeronautics, we're going to have same opportunities as we do the transformation of aeronautics. Two areas that I think are key for us to build very strong and robust partnerships are in the areas of air transportation systems. When we talk about autonomy, when we talk about advanced air mobility, air traffic, I think we do have an opportunity to really build strong partnership, and obviously it will be a benefit to the state of Ohio and its economy. So I will say our strength is in our technologies, is in our capabilities, the facilities and the tools that we have, our people, but more than anything, we do have two, as things has been mentioned a couple of times, two premier federal organizations here in the state of Ohio. Wright-Patterson and NASA have worked and continue to work together in multiple efforts. Let's continue building on that. Let's make that really kind of a driving force to bring others along the way. I think that's something that we can do and something that we should do for the benefit of the nation, but also for the benefit of both organizations of the state of Ohio.
Great, thank you, Dr. Perez-Davis. JP?
Yes, thank you, General Lyles. So a lot of strengths. First, Ohio is a manufacturing powerhouse, the #1 supplier and #1 state as a supplier for Boeing and Airbus, over 14,000 manufacturing firms located in the state. Outputs 12.2 billion a year and growing. Ohio has 550 payroll aerospace companies, including OEMs, systems component suppliers, propulsion, fluid management. In cybersecurity, we have a talent base that's 40% more affordable than some of the higher price locations on the coasts. So we've got a very diverse set of builders and software, and co-located with these amazing federal installations and military installations that have the acquirers and logisticians. And so especially now in a post-COVID environment where we see thousands fleeing the coasts, looking for more balanced and livable areas, we see this push toward reshoring to make sure we can secure our critical supply chains. It creates an amazing strength and opportunity for Ohio right now. In terms of a weakness, look, I'd say the time we have to create a sense of awareness for the decision makers that are making decisions of where they want to locate and expand their businesses. I think we're just now getting the word out in our own state, but I think the weakness now is this not broad awareness of what these assets are in Ohio and how investors and people that run these businesses can take advantage of them.
Great, thank you, JP. Let me ask a question primarily to Joe Morris for AFMC and Dr. Perez-Davis. Cybersecurity obviously is a concern to all of us, both privately and publicly, and certainly in our major programs and platforms. What either technologies or techniques or infrastructure or even training are you doing both within NASA at NASA Glenn and at AFMC to ensure that we have a robust supply chain and we don't get impacted by that formidable threat of cybersecurity? And Sean, I'll begin with you if you don't mind for AFMC.
Great, thanks, sir. Great question. So we have a number of things that we've been doing for some time and some things that we're doing that are emerging. So we established an organization that actually sits inside of the Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. It's based out of Hanscom Air Force Base as part of our organization called the CROWS, which is focused purely on this issue of cyber resiliency. So cyber resiliency of our weapon systems, CROWS, and they have been working a series of lines of efforts, engaging with all of our programs to ensure that all of our programs understand upfront the kind of requirements they need to be building into our contracts as we work with our industry teams, the mechanisms we need to do to ensure that our systems are cyber resilient, and then how we respond when there is a cyber incident and how we capture that and disseminate that information. So that team was actually put together a number of years ago and has demonstrated a huge amount of success working collectively. We're also working broadly our IT systems and how we think about doing IT across the Air Force. So we have a program now called Enterprise IT as a Service. We also have another program which is Secure IT as a Service, so ITAS and CITAS, which are designed to build out the infrastructure that all of our systems operate inside of, that enables us to control that from a cyber resiliency perspective, maybe to a degree that's greater than what we've done before. Those programs also operated out of Air Force Lifecycle Management Center. So this continues to be a constant focus. We certainly recognize as our systems become increasingly software dependent, increasingly software focused, that change is unlocking tremendous capability for us across all of our weapon systems, but it does come with the risk, right? And the risk is exactly in this area that you talk about, which is the cyber resilience. And so we are working hard as a community kind of across all of AFMC on trying to work through how we unleash all of that potential while minimizing the risk. And those are a couple of the techniques that we're using to do that.
Great, thank you very much, John Morris. Dr. Perez-Davis?
Very similar. We're looking at different aspects. The first one is education. To all our projects, making sure that they understand what are the risks associated with the cybersecurity. And as General Morris said, the software. So for each one of our programs, there's a specific processes that they have to do at the beginning of the project to identify where are those risks and how to mitigate some of those risks. So that's one piece. The other piece is in terms of the mission resilience and the protection. What kind of things we have to make sure that we have in place, like tools, the skills and the knowledge of the individuals that are responsible for that area. But I think the biggest challenges that we are facing is the pace. You know, we talk about technology and innovation, and we are all after that. That same technology and innovation is the one that we have to keep up with to be able to protect our systems. So I think, it's a continuous work. As individuals get smarter, we got to make sure our systems are smarter than the individuals to make sure that we can match and mitigate some of these risks. So I would say the risk management processes is a big initiative that we have. And we do have a number of organizations, same as General Morris has talked about, that have the responsibility at NASA to make sure that we have the information, that we have the communication, but we also have the tools and the processes that we need to attack that. So workforce become critical. How we can hire and retain individuals that have those skills that we need to mitigate those risks. That is a critical area and a challenge for all of us.
Great, thank you, Dr. Perez-Davis. Let me do a quick follow-up, if you will. And this is primarily for you, General Morris. I'm a big believer in leveraging capabilities and sharing it, if you will, with other agencies and as much as possible. Have you had a chance has AFMC had a chance to share lessons learned from ITAS and CITAS or even the CROWS with, as an example, NASA, or even in some cases with the community?
Yes, sir. So great question. Specific to NASA, I actually don't know the answer to your question. So I'll actually take an action to go see how we're sharing this more broadly. I will say within the Department of Defense, we are partnered with all the other services on these items. So we have certainly shared our lessons learned. The CROWS concept is considered a DoD best practice, and that OSD has shared with the other services as a best practice. We were the first service to lean into that concept. The ITAS and CITAS are actually services we're providing now for the DoD that are enterprise services that can be leveraged by others. So from that perspective, within the DoD enterprise, the answer is clearly yes. And we've been kind of all in. Broadening outside of the DoD is actually a really, really good question that I don't know the answer to, but I will take an action, and we'll go take a look at that and maybe start that engagement with NASA based on your suggestion. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, General Morris. If you don't mind, as you look at that and sharing with NASA, you might look to see if any of the things can be shared with industry, and perhaps either through the Dayton Development Coalition or Jobs Ohio, with some of the industries that are in the state of Ohio.
Absolutely, sir. I'll pass both of those actions to General Bunch on your behalf.
He needs to get the homework.
General Lies, let me add something here. I know that from the NASA standpoint, they work closely with the Department of Defense, and there's a number of councils that we have individuals that are working in this area sitting in those councils. So I would say with some level of confidence that there's an exchange, but I think we can do much more, especially when it comes to areas, we're in close proximity and we have a lot of technologies that we share. So I think there's a potential for more exchange of lessons learned.
Great, thank you very much. Let me just sort of a related topic, but let me switch to the topic of innovation and partnerships. I can't help but remember when I was a young first lieutenant, my first assignment at Wright-Patterson, one of the things, and I don't know the details, recall the details, one of the things we did was to have young officers go out into the community of Dayton, even in West Dayton and every part of the community, and just go around and meet and see some of the mom and pop shops and the little small businesses that exist that support the base or support the technologies. It always reminded me of, are there inhibitors or initiatives to allow the base, even to allow NASA in some respects, or JP, Jobs Ohio, to really tie into all the innovative small businesses and capabilities that I know exist out there, but perhaps they don't have a way that they can touch obviously the Air Force, or touch NASA, or touch some of the other things that are going on in the in Jobs Ohio, the missions of Jobs Ohio. Let me just throw that out there, and I'll just ask JP your thoughts about how do you tie into innovation. Really,
Sure.
Is probably the best way to answer the question.
Well, I think it starts, and it ties to what you just referenced, General Miles, is just a understanding, mutual understanding of what each of the federal or military institutions are working on and what their vision is, and then what is out there in the private sector with small, medium, and large businesses. I think generally, people that are on this call in general pay attention and have a reasonable understanding of what's happening inside the fence and outside the fence. But I think broadening that level of understanding has got to be the starting point. So events like this, more events like this in different verticals, different venues are very important to get the word out. And I think, establishing relationships between military and federal leaders, both in and out of your core industry, are very important. Jobs Ohio can use its platform to facilitate that happening, to identifying subject matter experts inside of each domain, and in some cases, developing pilot programs or funding collaborative projects And I think we're starting to do those, not necessarily focused on the military and federal piece. You saw those with the innovation districts, but I think out of the military and federal strategy, we're hoping some of those initiatives emerge that are collaborative efforts between, a division at one of the labs, or in NASA, or between NASA and the Air Force Research Labs, that the state and Jobs Ohio and the private sector can be part of, and both in resources, but also in intellectual and human capital. Starts with awareness. These events are very important.
Great. Thanks, JP. Sean, General Morris, how are you guys tapping into what we know innovation out there and around Ohio in general, and not just Dayton?
Yes, sir. So great question. So you're probably aware General Goldfein used to talk about, right? The Air Force is the only service that started as a garage startup, right? So innovation is in our blood as a service. It's at our core. So we've done a number of things. They start all the way down at the bases in the squadrons. So another innovation under General Goldfein was squadron innovation funds, right? Pushing money down to the bases that allowed them to actually go innovate and use airmen to innovate. But as we talk about our engagements with industries, especially in commercial, this is, and General Bunch specifically talked about this in his remarks, this is where AFWorks comes in. And AFWorks is an arm underneath of AFRL. And underneath AFWorks, there are multiple lines of effort, but one of those lines of effort is AF Ventures. And so we still have a program called Small Business Innovative Research that used to be a very dispersed mechanism that was executed by a lot of different folks. That has all now been consolidated into AFWorks, into AF Ventures for what we refer to as kind of the phase one, and the phase one are those initial engagements that we have with commercial industry. They tend to be small dollar value, but they're kind of a starting point, right? So if you have a commercial company that's out there that has an idea, they can engage directly with AF Ventures. They do data calls for ideas about every 2 months, I think is the battle rhythm. Those will usually have focus areas depending on what technology the Air Force is trying to get after at any given point in time. And this is really the best entry point for commercial companies that have an idea that they think would be of use to the Air Force to come engage here, where we can start a relationship early. We've done that in a way now that is, I think, much more user-friendly. Doing business with the government and with the Air Force can at times be daunting if you've never done business with the Air Force before. Consolidating it here was really meant to take away some of those restrictions to make these initial engagements easier. And I will tell you, on top of that, beyond that, AFRL also has an entry point into AFRL that if you are a company that has what you think is an innovative technology idea that maybe isn't mature enough yet for a product, AFRL also has an entry place where companies can come in and talk those things. And then you're talking to a group then you don't have to break the code of where you have to go in the enterprise, right? You have a single entry point into the Air Force Research Lab that can help work that for you. So between that entry point for technology ideas and between the AFWorks, AF Venture entry point for companies with innovative concepts that are maybe a little bit more mature, the Air Force is really focused on trying to make the ability for companies to do business with us easier and to facilitate that in a more effective way.
Great. Thank you very much. Dr. Prince Davis, I know you're obviously NASA, particularly with the Artemis program and every aspect of it. You're obviously need innovation really to ensure that Moon to Mars and the journey we're dealing with in the long term is going to be successful. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, start with awareness. The first thing we have to do is to make sure that industry, academia, other entities really know what we're looking for. So that's the first step, and how to work with the government. As General Morris said, it's not straightforward at times. We understand that, but there's a way. So we have to start that conversation. We talk about the challenges that we have faced with the COVID-19, But one of the things that we found out of that, our ability to maintain the communication and find ways to create that awareness. So one of the things that we're doing is we have already 2 sessions. One we titled with University of Toledo, and we call it kind of a NASA Day, where we bring our technology experts and the individuals that work with the business side to talk about how they can come and work with NASA, how they can provide some ideas, and what are the steps to do that. So that's one thing. The other piece is in terms of talking about which programs do we have and what are the opportunities, could be for space or could be for aeronautics, and how we do that. One of the areas is, for example, technology licenses and software licenses. If there's a company out there that is interested in using one of our technologies for a very innovative product, there's a way to initiate that work with NASA to use that technology. But they need to know what is the process, and they also need to know what are the technologies that we have that have patents and they can use that technology or the software. So our responsibility to make sure that there's a knowledge of how to do that and where to go and who to contact at NASA. So that's one of the things that we're doing. It's called kind of a NASA Day. The other area, to your point, General Lyles, is in terms of what are the technical challenges that we need help with. One of them that we just have a call for is called What's to the Moon. And the idea is to look at what are the power and energy storage devices that we need to be sustainable on the moon. And it's a call for innovation. Out of that, we're going to select a company or companies to look into an innovative idea of how to power things within the moon, on the moon. So I think, there's different venues. There's different ways that we can partner. The first thing starts with a conversation. What is the technology? How we can use that technology? And what NASA can do to facilitate the transfer of that technology, and or for us to infuse that technology in our missions.
Great. Thank you very much. JP, didn't want to leave you out of the loop on this. You touched on a little bit in your remarks about the innovation centers that Jobs Ohio has sponsored and set up. And I know we also have the Ohio Defense Manufacturing Community designation. Could you touch on how you see them supporting both innovation writ large in Ohio?
So let's take the innovation district maybe first. The whole concept of funding anchors, collaborative anchors, with a catalytic investment, so that they can develop something that's greater than the sum of the parts, is I think something that was done, or at least attempted, through the Wright Centers of Innovation back in the early 00s. But I do think with the opportunities with new battery technology and the growth of that market, the new developments for autonomous vehicles and autonomy, Ohio is positioned also with NASA and Wright-Patterson and the growth of an industry to make some, at least explore some different collaborative initiatives like that again. They might not necessarily fit the exact template of the innovation districts that were just rolled out and announced by the DeWine administration and Jobs Ohio, but this could be a good time to take another look at those. With regard to the designation, I think it's recognition more than anything else of the manufacturing and industry base in Ohio, the diverse nature of it. The dollars that are going to flow through the MEP can fund Industry 4.0 technologies, other talent initiatives. Those talent initiatives can complement some of the significant investments being made in the increase in the production of STEM talent that's being done by Jobs Ohio and by the state. So it creates more leverage and more resource, but it's really a recognition, the more and more recognition of what the unique assets that Ohio has.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, JP. Well, I tell you, in the interest of time, I'm going to ask just one last question, and it's not the least one. It's one obviously on everybody's mind in some respects today, and then I'll do a quick wrap up. And the question is, obviously, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a major topic everywhere in our country right now, at all sectors, NASA, the Air Force, DOD, I'm a member of the advisory group to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. So I know some of the things that are going on from a wide Air Force perspective and also DOD. But I just like your thoughts, if you will, about what kind of things your organizations are doing to support and address diversity and inclusion efforts, if you will, and particularly the connections to either minority serving institutions or HBCUs. And I'll start with General Morris. Let me just start with you.
Okay, thanks, General Lyles. You're actually probably lucky on this one that General Bunch isn't here, because he would talk on this topic for hours, because there is a ton going on. And he mentioned at the beginning, right, this is at the top of his priority list. And we have a lot going on. And it starts with just the most fundamental element, right, which is a firm belief that all of our airmen deserve an inclusive environment, founded on dignity and respect, and with equal opportunities. And that's kind of foundational to everything we're doing. We have started and a continuation of dialogue across the command with all of our folks. A term we use is sensing sessions, really to get after and talk to folks about what they're seeing. That those sensing sessions are founded on our values, right? So when you think about our values of integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do, when you think about the oath that as airmen we take to support and defend the Constitution, that becomes a great foundational basis to have a discussion, right, about this inclusive environment, because it's very easy to view behaviors and actions through that lens to help determine what is right and what is wrong. Because it's very easy when you look through that lens to know, does this make us better in terms of bringing us closer together and supporting our values, or does it pull us apart in terms of supporting those activities? And so building off of that, then, we've been building a number of very specific initiatives resulting from the feedback. And the reality is, in this space, you have reality and you have perception, and you have a juxtaposition where those two seem an awful lot alike, which is where people's perceptions is their reality that we have to deal with. Just one quick example is hiring. So one of the things that General Bunch has now done for our entry level positions has centralized hiring, because there was a perception that the people who were doing the hiring, right, had whether they were conscious or unconscious biases in who they were bringing on board. And General Lyles, you'll appreciate, right, when we were active duty, we weren't involved in hiring lieutenants, right? We were issued the lieutenants that came to us. And I don't remember ever questioning, right, why I got a lieutenant that I got and at any point in my career. And so we view, right, why should our entry level civilians be any different than that, right? And so whether there was a reality to that concern or not, what this allows us to do is get after, right, the perception. And by centralized hiring, right, we now take away the perception that individual supervisors might actually harbor a bias in their hiring. So that's just a very simple example. In doing that, I'll link that then to your other question, right, which is we have expanded now the places that we go, right, to do those engagements, to do that centralized hiring. And HBCUs is a perfect example now of going off and doing hiring fairs and engagements at some of these, what I would view as potentially less traditional locations for our hiring events. And that's now enabled by this centralized hiring process. So there's a linkage that kind of flows through all of that. I have probably about 50 other things we could talk about, but for the sake of time, I'll just kind of stick with that one and let the other panelists add. But I can tell you, this is a huge passion area for General Bunch, and there really is no stone we aren't turning over to try to figure out how we make improvements in this area. Over.
Great. Thank you, General Morris. And I'll just add, with the central hiring and with the connection with the HBCUs, I'm always reminding people, particularly around Dayton, Ohio, Columbus, that whole central Ohio area, that 2 other nations' HBCUs are within 10 miles of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Central State University and Wilberforce. And so I'm glad to see that you're reaching out to them. Well, in the interest of time, let me, Dr. Perez Davis, see if you have anything you would like to add to this particular topic, and then we're going to wrap up from there.
Yeah, so this topic by itself deserves a lot of time because there's multiple aspects of diversity, inclusion, and equity. You can talk about that in terms of where do we start, and we start with being present at those HBCUs and minority service institutions because we have to create a pipeline. So I will start in the basis in terms of making sure they're part of the solution, being involved with the schools. So we can use that school as one of our places to go and do the recruitment. So it starts with making them part of our mission, then going into recruitment. Then we bring them to NASA. When we are at NASA, we have a responsibility in terms of creating an environment that really values diversity, inclusion, and equity. Part of all the senior executive is the inclusion value. We have to demonstrate it. It's not just about the diversity, it's living and giving people a place and a voice at the table. That is critical. If we don't do that, we have failed the part of inclusion and equity. So we have to do that. We also have created a number of organizations and activities within NASA committees to make sure that we look at all the angles for diversity, inclusion, and equity, and make our senior executive responsible for it. It's not to be delegated. With that, we have to walk the talk. So that's a responsibility that we have to carry. And the other piece is in terms of be present, having people to go out and talk to students at all levels. So make sure that we talk in a language that is understood by all of them, but they feel and they can achieve, and they come and do great things for NASA and the nation. So that's the part that we take a lot of pride with, because we also create that pipeline that we so much need for the STEM education. There's more things that I can talk about for the bigger of time. I'm going to stop right there.
Thank you, Dr. Perez Davis. And in all honesty, this is a subject, and there are lots of others involved in technology that all of us could talk for hours about. So I'm going to just wrap up here, if you will. And let me first thank our outstanding panelists, Dr. Marla Perez Davis from NASA Glenn, General Mars from Air Force Material Command, and particularly Commander of the Lifecycle Management Center, and JP Nassif, the CEO of Jobs Ohio. This has been a pleasure and an honor to have a chance to moderate and talk to each one of you, to hear your perspectives on some important topics. And I think, as you probably know, I had lots of other questions I could ask. And so we, in the interest of time, we'll stop here. But this is, I think, the first of many sort of forums like this that hopefully between the Dayton Development Coalition, Team NEO, and Bill, thank you for your leadership there. Jeff Hoagland and Dayton Development Coalition and JP, we'll have an opportunity to do more of these in the future. So thank all of you for your leadership and your great insights. And I want to thank the audience, everybody who's tied in, for your time and attention today. We touched on some important topics, not just for Ohio, but really for our country. And I look forward to an opportunity to re-engage and have another sort of forum similar to this. Thank all of you. God bless all of you, particularly the panels and your great organizations. And thank you for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you, General Isles.
Thank you.